What happens when the man who built a business from scratch walks into one of his own stores and no one knows who he is? Victor Barnes stood outside Store 5, a dusty glass panel between him and the place he'd poured 2 decades of his life into building. 7 stores now. 7 fast casual diners, all busy, all profitable on paper. But lately, the numbers from Store 5 weren't adding up. Customer feedback was lukewarm, labor costs were higher than expected, and turnover had spiked. So Victor did what reports and emails couldn't. He shaved his beard, dyed his hair gray, wore thick glasses, and pulled on a faded hoodie. He applied for a part-time trainee position through a fake staffing agency his assistants set up. No one here had met him. Most only knew his name from orientation binders or a blurry photo near the breakroom clock in screen. He walked in at 6:45 a.m. sharp. The place smelled like burnt grease and old mop water. "You the new guy?" a woman asked from behind the counter, tapping the side of her headset. "Yeah." "Early," Victor replied. "Starting today." She didn't smile. "Put on gloves, dishes are backed up already." The woman's name tag read Marla, shift lead. Mid-30s, tight ponytail, looked like she hadn't slept properly in weeks. Victor stepped behind the line. The kitchen was chaotic, 2 fryers down, prep station sticky with syrup, the coffee machine blinking red. A younger girl in a wrinkled uniform was running both the register and drive-through. Her name tag read Vanessa E. She was fast. Every order she rang up, she repeated back without missing a beat. Her voice stayed calm even when a customer snapped about cold hash browns. But Victor noticed something else. She was at least 15 minutes late, and Marla didn't let it go. "You're late again. That's 3 this week." "I know Vanessa paused, glancing briefly at Victor. "It won't happen again, I'm sorry." "You said that yesterday. Keep it up, you'll be replaced." Victor kept his head down, but something twisted in his gut. The girl couldn't have been older than 20. Her eyes looked tired, but she worked like she owed the place money. By noon, he'd watched enough. The fry cook stormed off mid-shift after a shouting match with Marla. The dishwasher was clearly high. He dropped a full tray of ceramic mugs and laughed. Marla barked orders nonstop but didn't lift a hand to help. And yet, somehow, Vanessa kept things moving. She covered the register and helped bag orders. She even jumped on the headset while wiping down tables between customers. At the end of the shift, Victor sat outside near the dumpster, pretending to text. Vanessa exited through the back door, pulling a coat over her uniform and heading toward the street. No car, no ride hail. She just started walking. Victor waited 10 seconds, then followed. He kept a good distance, guilt crawling up his spine the whole way. Vanessa walked 10 blocks. Then crossed a freeway overpass. Then kept going. A half hour later, she turned into a crumbling apartment building with boarded-up windows and a broken front buzzer. Victor stopped, watched, then slowly walked back. The next morning, he arrived early again. Vanessa came in 16 minutes late. Marla snapped. "You want to get written up again?" Vanessa looked like she'd swallowed glass. "No, I'm sorry, Victor stepped in. She's been here for 4 hours straight without sitting down. You really gonna start the morning like this?" Marla turned to him, annoyed. "You don't know how things run here. Stay in your lane." Victor didn't reply, but something in him cracked. By the end of his second shift, he'd seen enough. 2 employees bailed mid-shift. Marla spent most of her time in the back office on her phone. Vanessa covered everything. She even helped fix a jammed printer while juggling a line of 6 customers. She apologized when she didn't need to, and she never stopped moving. After closing, Victor walked over to her while she was scrubbing down the soda machine. "You always walk home?" he asked. Vanessa blinked. "Yeah. Buses don't run that early." "You ever think about asking for a ride?" She gave a small, tired smile. "Not really, it's just me and my son. Can't afford things going wrong." Victor's heart dropped. "You got a kid?" She nodded. "Hudson, he's 5. I drop him off at daycare before work. It's out of the way, that's why I'm late." Victor didn't say anything. His throat tightened. She was doing everything she could, and no one, not the manager, not the district supervisor, had bothered to ask why. He nodded. "Thanks for telling me." Vanessa grabbed her coat. "You're different. You ask stuff." Victor watched her disappear out the back door. The next morning, he walked in early. But this time, he wasn't only the trainee. He wore a clean button-up, no glasses, and a calm but serious face. By 7:15 a.m., everyone was in the break room. Marla looked confused. "Where's the new guy?" Victor stepped up. "He's not coming in today." Marla folded her arms. "And who are you?" Victor's voice was steady. "I'm Victor Barnes. I own this place." Silence. Vanessa's mouth parted slightly. Marla's face drained. Victor looked around. "We need to talk." Victor didn't sit. He stood in front of the break room table while the staff looked at him like he'd grown a second head. Vanessa kept her arms folded across her stomach. Marla leaned back in her chair, trying to mask her surprise with indifference. The others, 2 cooks, and the early shift dishwasher seemed unsure whether they were in trouble or about to be congratulated. "No one knew who I was," Victor said. "That was the point." He let the words hang. "I've spent the last 2 days here working alongside you. No cameras. No special treatment, just me trying to see how this store really runs." Marla's jaw tightened. "You went undercover." Victor's eyes didn't leave hers. "Yes, I watched everything, everyone." He turned slightly, addressing the entire room now. "I saw a team trying to survive chaos. Equipment breaking down, short staff, no support, and one person holding it all up while others disappeared or stood by." He paused, then looked back at Marla. "In 2 days, I didn't see you once step in to help on the floor, not once. But I did hear you threaten a write-up over someone being late by minutes, while ignoring the fact that she was covering for 2 other roles." Marla shot up from her chair, defensive. "That's not fair. I've been managing this store without help from corporate, no extra hours approved, no backup workers. I'm doing what I can." Victor didn't flinch. "And what you've done is let this place rot from the inside. You don't lead, you demand, you blame. You delegate every task and disappear the moment it gets hard." Her lip curled. "You don't know what it's like here. I do now," he cut in. "Exactly what it's like. And that's why, effective immediately, you're no longer employed by this company." Silence. The dishwasher's eyebrows shot up. One of the cooks let out a quiet breath. Vanessa didn't move, but her hand clenched the hem of her shirt. Marla stared at him, stunned. "You're serious? I'm not going to let someone who refuses to support their team represent the values this company was built on." She scoffed. "Good luck running this place without a manager." Victor nodded toward the others. "I think we'll manage just fine for now." Marla slammed her locker shut and stormed out without another word. Victor waited a beat, then turned back to the group. "I know that was sudden, but it had to happen." He stepped closer to the table, his voice dropping to a calmer tone. "Here's what's going to change. First, I'm assigning a senior field leader to oversee the store until we find a new manager. Someone who actually listens and works shoulder to shoulder with you." He looked at the dishwasher, a lanky man named Joel. "You've been showing up every day at 6, right?" Joel nodded cautiously. "I'm bringing in a second dishwasher to split the load. You'll get proper breaks and a manageable rotation." The younger cook, Andre, shifted in his seat. "What about the fryers? We've been down 2 for weeks." "I already had a tech scheduled this morning," Victor said. "They'll be here in an hour." Vanessa hadn't said a word. She stood near the wall, arms still crossed, eyes unreadable. Victor turned to her last. "You've carried this store on your back. I saw it with my own eyes. No one told you to, you just did it." She opened her mouth, then hesitated. I just didn't want customers to have a bad experience. You shouldn't have to do 3 jobs to make that happen." He pulled a folded sheet from his jacket. "I've approved a raise for you effective today, $2 more an hour. And I'm assigning you a schedule that doesn't put you on opening shifts unless you request them." Vanessa blinked. "Wait, what? You told me about your son. I don't want work to put your kid at risk because you're running across town at dawn." She stared at him, stunned. Her voice dropped. "I thought I was going to get fired." Victor shook his head. "You're the reason this place is still standing." He turned back to the rest. "And one more thing. From now on, every employee here is getting a weekly check-in with the district office. You'll have a direct line to report issues, and they'll actually be listened to. No more silence." He let the weight of the words settle before stepping back. "I'll be around all day. I'm not dropping in and leaving. I'll be working alongside you until we stabilize." Andre raised a hand hesitantly. "So, we're not hiring more people." "We are. I've already authorized 2 new hires, but it'll take a few days to get them through onboarding. In the meantime, I'll be filling in wherever I'm needed." Joel leaned against the counter. You serious? I'm more serious than I've been in years. Victor left the break room ahead of the others and grabbed an apron from the supply shelf. He tied it over his shirt and stepped behind the register just as the first customer walked in. Vanessa joined him without a word. She tapped in the order while Victor bagged it. You don't have to work the line, she said. I do, he replied. Until I understand every crack in this place. She gave him a small glance, then turned back to the screen. By noon, the tech had arrived and fixed one fryer. The other needed a part, but it was ordered for next day delivery. Victor caught grease splatter on his sleeve while helping Andre during the lunch rush. Every time a tray went out, he noted the wait times, the feedback, the flow. He saw things differently now, not as a CEO, but someone who had stood behind the sink and felt the weight of dishes stack faster than they could be cleaned. During a lull, Vanessa leaned on the counter, rubbing her wrist. You serious about the schedule change? Already sent it to HR, Victor said. You'll have mid-shifts unless you want mornings. She nodded slowly. I didn't think people like you actually saw us. I didn't. Not until I walked in the back door and put on gloves. She didn't speak again, but she didn't need to. Later that day, Victor called the regional manager and told him to visit the store in person the next morning. No more phone briefings. He wanted eyes on the ground every week until the store was fully staffed and stable. He made a list of every broken item, every missing supply, every overtime hour no one had logged. Then he stayed until close. He swept the entryway, took out trash, helped Andre restock the walk-in cooler. As he left, Vanessa was on the phone near the door, her voice barely above a whisper. Yeah, he's different, I don't know, he just listened. Victor didn't interrupt. He walked past her, gave her a nod, and stepped into the night. Tomorrow would be harder, but it would also be better. Victor arrived just after dawn, no longer disguised, but not dressed like a corporate visitor either. Dark jeans, rolled sleeves, clipboard in hand. He didn't walk in through the front, he took the alley entrance, the same way every hourly employee did. The kitchen lights were on, but the store was quiet. Joel was already rinsing containers near the prep sink. He gave Victor a cautious glance. You're really here again, Victor nodded. Told you I would be, Joel shrugged. Didn't think you meant it. Victor set his clipboard down on the dry shelf and grabbed a pair of gloves. I don't say things lightly. He worked the prep station in silence with Joel until Vanessa arrived, coat zipped to her chin and dark circles under her eyes. She didn't rush. She just walked in, clocked on, tied her apron, and nodded toward them like she'd been doing this with them for years. Victor said nothing. Just handed her a stack of clean trays and kept chopping. At 7:15, a man in a pressed shirt and company badge walked in through the front. Derek Monroe, the regional manager. Mid-40s, sharp haircut, expression like he was already 2 steps behind. He didn't look around, just beelined for the office. Victor intercepted him. Before you get comfortable, you're walking the line with me, Derek blinked. I thought we were doing a debrief later. Right now, I want you to see how things work when it's us in the grill. Derek hesitated, then loosened his collar. All right, lead the way. The breakfast rush came fast. Vanessa handled the counter. Victor jumped on the sandwich station, and Andre showed up halfway through, still drying his hands from the back. Victor waited for Derek to step in, but he lingered near the printer, arms crossed, watching instead of helping. You planning on just observing? Victor called out. Derek straightened. Didn't want to get in the way. You're already in the way. Grab a headset. Derek flushed slightly but took a step forward. Vanessa handed him the extra headset without looking at him. She didn't slow down. By 9, the worst of the rush was over. Victor pulled Derek aside into the dry storage hallway. You see the problem now? Derek rubbed his neck. It's tight, yeah, definitely short-handed. Victor stared at him. That's not new. But you haven't stepped foot in here in months. I've been managing 4 other locations, Victor. You've been managing spreadsheets, not people. Derek looked away. So what do you want done? I want someone here 3 times a week until the new manager is in place. I want real-time check-ins. I want you to listen when someone says they're stretched too thin instead of pushing back with labor metrics. Derek nodded slowly. All right, I'll restructure my week. Victor's voice stayed even. Make sure you do. They stepped back out just as a delivery truck pulled into the lot. Joel jogged to the back door to receive it. Vanessa was wiping down the counter, moving stiffly. Victor walked over. "You good?" she nodded, not meeting his eyes. "Just tired. You get any sleep?" "Couple hours. Hudson was up coughing all night." Victor hesitated. "You got backup for him when that happens?" "My neighbor sometimes watches him if I'm stuck." "Sometimes." She finally looked at him. "She works nights." "It's hit or miss." Victor folded his arms. "You ever think about asking for help from us? We've got emergency assistance funds." Vanessa gave a short laugh. "I didn't even know that existed," Victor sighed. "It shouldn't have taken me showing up undercover for you to find out." She glanced at the clock. "You want me to take lunch now?" Victor shook his head. "Not yet. We're still light. I'm working on it." She moved to refill the coffee station. Victor watched her walk slowly, favoring one side. She wasn't limping, but close. At 10:30, a tall man with a shaved head and earbuds dangling from his collar walked in through the front, chewing gum and texting as he approached the counter. "Yo, I'm covering mid-shift," he said without looking up. Victor narrowed his eyes. "You're Travis." "Yeah, you're 45 minutes late." Travis glanced at the clock. "Traffic." Victor stepped from behind the counter. "You're not clocking in." Travis raised an eyebrow. "What?" "I've reviewed your last 3 weeks. You've shown up late 9 times, left early 5, and logged hours you didn't work." Travis scoffed. "That's not true. I pulled the security logs. I've got time stamps." Travis looked around like someone might back him up. No one did. Victor's voice was calm. "Give me your apron and headset." "You serious?" "Dead. You're done here." Travis opened his mouth to argue, but Victor was already walking toward the office with the headset in hand. By 11, the store was short again. Vanessa didn't complain. Joel moved faster. Andre didn't ask for a break. But Victor could feel it, the slow grind of people pushing past their limits. He called Derek over again. "We need support today. Call one of the floaters. They're in other stores. Then you come back and finish the day. I'll cover now." Derek hesitated. "You're ordering me to run a line." Victor didn't blink. "Yes, you're part of the team or you're not." Derek left without arguing. At noon, a woman in business casual stepped through the door, hair pulled back, clipboard in hand. She scanned the room until she found Victor. "You must be Mr. Barnes. I'm from HR, here for the exit paperwork." Victor raised an eyebrow. "For who?" "Marla. She's been calling about severance, wants to contest the termination." Vanessa looked up from the register. Joel rolled his eyes without turning around. Victor waved the HR rep toward the office. "Tell her she was released for cause. We have written customer complaints, video of her walking offline during rush, and multiple reports of retaliatory behavior." The woman nodded. "Understood." She left 10 minutes later. Victor didn't watch her go. Instead, he walked over to Vanessa. "You got Hudson tomorrow," she nodded. "I switched with my neighbor. She's got him till 3. You're off tomorrow," she blinked. "What?" "I need you rested. We're training 2 new hires starting Thursday. I want you helping onboard them." "I've never trained anyone. You've already been doing it without the title." She looked at him for a long second, then nodded. "All right." At 2:30, Victor stepped outside with Andre, who was catching his breath after non-stop orders for over an hour. "You've been solid today," Victor said. Andre wiped his forehead with his sleeve. "Wasn't expecting it to get worse after Marla left. It's going to get better, but it won't be fast." Andre leaned against the wall. "I don't mind grinding. I just don't want to feel invisible while doing it." Victor nodded. "You won't be." He walked back in, checked the prep list, and started restocking for evening. No speeches, no announcements. At closing, Victor stayed behind to run the final counts with Joel. Vanessa finished wiping down the last table and grabbed her coat. Victor caught her at the door. "One more thing," she turned. "Next week, I want you shadowing the new assistant manager we're bringing in. You're not just a cashier here. I want you in leadership." Her eyes widened. Seriously, you've earned it." She didn't say anything for a moment. Then, "I used to think people like me didn't get noticed, that we just kept our heads down and hoped for the best." Victor nodded. "That's on me. I built something I lost touch with. I won't make that mistake again." She gave the smallest nod, then stepped into the night. Victor turned back to the register. The hum of the drink machine buzzed faintly in the background. Tomorrow, he'd be back again, not as the boss watching from a distance, but as part of the team, finally paying attention. By Friday morning, Victor was back in Store 5's narrow kitchen, sleeves rolled, apron already smudged from unloading the early dairy drop. He had spent the last 4 days splitting his time between the front and back of house, slowly rebuilding the rhythm of a team that had been running on fumes. Progress was steady, but fragile like a machine running with just enough oil to keep from seizing. Joel was rinsing out the tea urns, his movements slower than usual. Victor didn't ask why. He already knew Joel had taken a night shift at a warehouse 3 miles away to make rent. Andre was prepping biscuit dough, earbuds tucked into his collar, head down. Vanessa hadn't arrived yet, but she was scheduled for mid-morning. Her new shift pattern had started 2 days ago, and Victor was keeping track of how it impacted the team's balance. By 8, the store was humming. Not smooth, but no longer chaotic. The new assistant manager, a sharp but quiet woman named Leela, arrived on time and immediately began reviewing the prior day's logs without prompting. Victor had brought her in from Store 2 after being impressed by how she handled a staffing crisis 2 months prior. She didn't talk much, but when she did, people listened. That morning, she was all observation, no interference. At 9:15, Vanessa stepped in through the side entrance in a clean uniform and a looser posture than Victor had ever seen on her. She looked rested, alert. The bruised exhaustion around her eyes had faded, replaced by something steadier. She clocked in, adjusted her name tag, and slid behind the counter with a quiet focus that had become her signature. Victor nodded at her as she passed. "How's Hudson?" She gave him a sideways glance. "Got him into a subsidized daycare spot this week. Opens later, but the hours match better now. Glad it lined up." Vanessa leaned down to grab the receipt paper from beneath the register. "I didn't know those spots even existed till Leela handed me that binder yesterday." Victor caught Leela's eye across the kitchen. She didn't say anything, just gave a brief nod and kept going. The lunch wave hit harder than expected. A school field trip had stopped nearby, and within 15 minutes, the dining area was full of teenagers ordering in packs. Victor switched to bagging orders while Vanessa ran 2 registers. Joel managed the drink station solo, and Leela took the headset to clear the drive-thru. Even with a full team, the pace was relentless. By 12:40, Vanessa stepped back from the register and shook out her wrist. Victor glanced over. "You need 5, she hesitated. "I'm good, just stretching." "You've been on your feet 3 hours straight, take a breather." She didn't argue. Just nodded and handed off her lane to Andre, who had just finished assembling sandwich wraps and moved over without being asked. The shift was beginning to operate like a team, not a patchwork of survivors. At 1:30, Derek walked in. He wasn't in a dress shirt this time. Just a branded polo and khakis, clipboard under his arm. He didn't greet anyone loudly or wave. He walked straight to the back, reviewed the logs, and then returned to the front to ask Leela about midday inventory. Victor watched from a distance. He didn't interfere unless something slipped. So far, nothing had. At 2, a woman in her 60s with a bagged lunch and a quiet voice came in asking about open positions. She explained that she had left her previous job after her husband's surgery and was looking for part-time work to ease back in. Vanessa offered her a seat, brought her a cup of water, and then walked to the back to find Victor. She doesn't have a resume printed, but she's worked food service before, said she can do evenings or weekends. Victor didn't hesitate. "Bring her back." "I'll talk to her now." By 2:30, he had offered the woman a part-time evening slot to start next week, pending background check. She left smiling, and Vanessa quietly returned to the counter. At close, Victor began wiping down the prep cooler when Leela approached him with a small notepad. "We've got 2 on board starting Monday. Both confirmed." "Good, that'll give us breathing room on the weekend." She glanced across the kitchen where Joel was finishing up the mop. "You thinking about rotating Joel out of dish next week?" Victor nodded, slowly. "He's been running double shifts between here and that warehouse job. I don't want him burning out before we stabilize." Leela wrote something down. "Vanessa's ready for more. She's been watching me run logs without being asked." Asked about margin tracking today. Victor wiped his hands on a towel and leaned against the cooler. "Think she's ready for keyholder with support?" "Yes." He He took a breath. Let's move her in by next month. I'll handle the development plan. At that moment, Vanessa stepped into the back, pulling her hoodie over her head. Stores clean. Andre took out the last trash bag. Victor looked over. You heading out? Yeah, got a sitter till 8. He paused, then walked over. You've been steady all week, not just showing up holding us together. Vanessa shrugged. Feels easier now. Like we're not just dodging explosions every shift. Victor cracked a smile. That's about as high a compliment as I could ask for. She tilted her head slightly. You ever think about doing this more often, working shifts? Yeah, just showing up, not as the owner, just here. He didn't answer right away. Then, I've already blocked 2 days a month on my calendar. I'll rotate stores, but I'll be in the mix. Vanessa adjusted her hoodie. People notice when you're around, not just because you're the boss, he nodded. That's the point. She gave a small wave and stepped out the back door into the dusk. Victor turned back to Leela. We're getting there, he said. She replied without looking up from her notes. We are. Later, after the last receipt had printed and the final count matched down to the dollar, Victor sat in the office and opened his laptop. He drafted a company-wide memo, short and direct. Starting next month, every store would receive a quarterly visit from a member of the executive team. No fanfare, no cameras, no announcement. Just an apron, a shift, and an open ear. He didn't mention Vanessa by name. He didn't need to. She was the reason he'd walked through the fire of his own company and come out with his eyes open. And now, there would be no going back.